So the core elements of our global burden of animal disease are essentially understanding the livestock populations, their size, their value, understanding what we're missing because of the presence of health and welfare issues, attributing that where we can to the key causes and risk factors that we understand in those systems. And then where we've got information available and models available, we'll actually look across the economy in terms of the impact across the economy. So this program will generate a sort of series of information sets that will help our decision makers, be they at farm level or at sector level or at a national level, about where we should be prioritising our healthcare issues for the animals. So I'm very positive that in 5 years' time we will have started a process rolling where we can have updates of these kinds of estimates on a fairly frequent basis. Ideally, it would be annual, but it may not be as frequent as that. Once we start developing a data set that becomes longitudinal, we've now got an outcome measure where we can start to compare policy change in the animal health scene. So it could be about trading patterns, it could be about the implementation of better vaccines, or it could be about changes in antibiotic use. But we can then start to actually do more kind of econometric type analysis because we have data sets available which will become longitudinal. So one of the issues here is that when we generate those longitudinal data sets, it gives us an ability to actually understand what has worked and what hasn't, and what kind of impacts we would anticipate through those changes in the food system. So that's one of the things I'm hoping that we will glean from this. Now, obviously, that's moving into the future, but currently we don't have those data sets available. We have rather shaky sort of population data sets, but we don't have anything coming close to what I'm describing. From a more immediate perspective, I am very keen that we actually understand a little bit better the relative contributions of the burden of animal disease by infectious and non-infectious disease issues. Once we have that information, it would open up discussion about whether we've got our animal health systems in the right space. Because most of the time we spend talking and working on infectious disease burdens of crises because we don't have any awareness about what we're losing on top of that. So the immediacy, obviously, of things like African swine fever or foot and mouth disease or an anthrax outbreak or a rabies problem is because we see animals sick or dying. And we have no idea about the parasitism that those animals were being subjected to prior to that particular incident taking place. So actually putting that into a quantitative framework and actually understanding a little bit better about what it means for these animals to be unhealthy most of the time and occasionally suffering the kind of crisis disease that we tend to respond to, I think is going to be quite an important part of how we move things forward. We do know that there are research projects that have collected some information from those systems. And we do know that there's ongoing research projects working in those spaces. So it's really about being smart with our data ecosystems, understanding where we've got data, what we can do with it, how reliable it is, how can we glean it. We're not intending to go out into the field and collect data. We're working at a global scale. If we tried to do that, we'd just run ourselves stupid with data collection exercises. Yeah. We're thinking about gleaning data that's already been collected and understanding why it's been collected and how it might be useful to us. If you're in a highly developed country or a country with commercial poultry or pig sectors, the information we generate will give you a better idea about what you're missing in terms of improving your system. And this program is very much about focusing on the producers and veterinarians and making sure we help them make better decisions. So we'll be able to provide you with information back about what they're losing currently, which things we think are actually about poor resource allocation, which things we think are actually about lack of technology available and therefore require research, and which things we've just got to accept that we don't know at the moment and we perhaps need more research to understand what it is. So in that situation, we should be able to provide a guide in terms of where they need to focus more efforts, be it through lobbying their communities to actually do more research, or about changing their own practices to improve their systems. Now, at the other end of the scale are people I've spent most of my career working with, are farmers who simply do not have access to veterinary services and veterinary technologies. And these people are numerous. I mean, estimates of up to 700 million people who are still smallholder livestock keepers globally, who depend on animals to make sure that they can afford to eat. These are people that need certain types of veterinary services that are not getting that kind of information, not getting the technology required. And what we want to do in these spaces is make sure that people understand that it's not enough to just offer advice on avian influenza or foot and mouth disease, that actually many of these people are suffering because their animals don't get enough to eat or don't get the right things to eat. That they may be suffering from very curable parasitic problems that can't be managed because of their access to veterinary technologies and animal health advice. So we want to sort of shine a light on these people and actually understand what their problems are, and encourage people with power, in policy making power, to actually make a difference on their lives. So those are the two sort of sides. We are focusing this project obviously on animal diseases, but with a very strong idea that this is about helping the people who keep livestock and benefit from their use. Yeah.